Hey guys, how's it going? I'm going to go over the first 10 words of Unit 9's vocab today. Couple things. First of all, I've posted pictures of the Unit 9 words from the book online. So if you don't have your book, if you don't have access to it for any reason, you can go check those out and look through that. I've also posted choosing the right word 1 through 25 online. It's the same thing as from your book. It's just set up in a multiple choice format where you have the same two options as you would in the book. Go through, make sure you do that today. It's due by midnight tonight. Again, I'll get attendance from that. I will get a grade from it. So make sure you do that today. Okay. If you have any questions, if you can't access the assignment, if you have any trouble doing it, let me know. I'll try to see if I can get it fixed. Also, whenever I do videos on these words, I'm doing it so you can hear me pronounce the words, you can hear sentences, definitions, that sort of thing. Feel free to ask questions. Feel free to post sentences of your own or definitions and say, hey, does this work? Do you think this one's okay? Whatever. Can I use it in this part of speech? Things like that, things you would ask me in class or outside of class. You can feel free to post those online, ask me, you can ask your classmates, whatever. All right, with that, we're going to get started with the first word. So that's accelerate. Accelerate's a word you're probably familiar with. It's a verb. It means to speed up, to pick up speed. So for an example sentence, you might say the running back accelerated while carrying the football, or the car accelerated down the highway. It just means to speed up. Pretty simple word, one you're probably already familiar with. The second word is bystander. Bystander is a noun. It's for someone who witnesses something, someone who's an onlooker, someone who observes something but isn't part of it. So you could say the bystander observed the car accident, probably the same car that was accelerating down the highway. You could say the bystander witnessed a murder, something like that. You could say he was an innocent bystander at the bank robbery. All these things are someone who saw something happen but they didn't actually participate in it themselves. Okay, and that's always a noun. Word 3 is canvas. Now, this is not canvas like you would paint on or like a material that you would make things out of. This is canvas with two S's at the end, C-A-N-V-A-S-S. The canvas you're probably thinking of is C-A-N-V-A-S. This is a verb. This is not a noun. So to canvas is to survey, to go through an area and to ask people questions. This is usually used in politics, okay? So you might say we canvassed voters. What that means is going through a community and asking people like, who are you going to vote for? How do you feel about these issues? Things like that. It's particularly prevalent in a year like this where we're in an election season. So people might be canvassing communities, asking people who they're going to vote for, things like that. You could also canvass the school. I might canvass this class. I might post a question that says, hey, what do you think about doing classes online? I like it, I don't like it, other, whatever. That would be canvassing you guys for responses. So it's like surveying, asking questions to try to figure out people's opinions on things. That's a word that, again, it's going to be a little bit tricky because you're used to the canvas, like the material, like you might paint on or something. Word 4 is casual. Casual is an adjective. It's pretty easy. A word you're probably familiar with as well. So to do something casually would be not to necessarily take it too seriously. Okay, so if you say, well, I play pool casually, you're an okay pool player, you enjoy it sometimes. Maybe you have a table in your house and you play pool on it, but you're not going out and competing. You're not a professional pool player, right? So doing something casually versus doing it professionally are two different things. It can also be, something that is just really informal. So if I say we're going to have a get together, it's casual dress. It means you can wear a t-shirt and jeans, that's fine. Versus formal, where I might say you need to wear a suit or a dress jacket and a tie and a dress, something like that. That's casual in that sense. It's always going to be an adjective, but it does have a few different meanings, all of which you're probably familiar with. It's a pretty common word. Word 5 is downtrodden. So someone who's downtrodden feels oppressed, beaten down. They feel like they've been mistreated. So if you're at home during this coronavirus thing and your parents are making you do all kinds of chores and they're making you study 6 hours a day and you're not allowed to play video games or go outside or talk to your friends or have access to your phone, I hope that's none of you. You might feel really downtrodden. You might be wanting to come back to school if that were the case. Okay, pretty easy word. Again, it's also an adjective. Word 6 is entice. So to entice someone is to try to tempt them to do something, to try to get someone, like persuade them, attract them to something. So you might say, the delicious pizza on the table enticed me to pick up a slice and bite into it. Okay, so it made me want to get a slice of it. You might say I had to do homework, but the TV in the background enticed me to go watch Netflix or play video games. It persuaded you to do that thing. It's a verb. It can, connotation wise, contextually, it can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. You could say I was enticed to study when my parents offered me $20 if I made all A's, or you could say I was enticed not to study when my friends asked me to come hang out. Hopefully not right now. But either way, it's a verb to persuade someone to do something. Word 7's erode. Erode is usually used with like soil or dirt. It's to wear away. Okay, maybe with rock over a long period of time. You could say the rocks on the shoreline eroded as the salt water and the air blasted against them over several years. You've heard about soil erosion and things like that, where things wash out in your bodies of water. That's eroding. Okay, if you rub really hard at a surface, like maybe you take a piece of wood and you rub at it with something really rough, you're going to erode that surface away, or you might erode the paint off of something by rubbing at it. It just means to wear away. It's a verb. Word 8 is flounder. Okay, we're not talking about the flat, goofy-looking fish that tastes really good when it's fried. This is going to be used as a verb. That is a correct usage of the word as a noun. We're not using it that way in this unit. We're not using it as like a flounder, a fish, although that it is spelled the same way. What we're using it as here is a verb. So to flounder is like a flounder might flounder by flopping around if you pulled it out of the water and just laid it on the ground. So to flounder is kind of to thrash about, to flop around. It can also be used figuratively. It's in kind of to stay in one place, not really making any progress. So if you're trying to learn how to play an instrument maybe, and you're not making any progress at all, you're trying really hard, but it's kind of like you're just smashing keys on the piano and you're not actually learning anything, you might say, I'm floundering while trying to learn the piano. So you're flopping about, but figuratively, not literally lying on the ground flopping like a fish, though I mean you could. I hope you don't. But again, not a terribly difficult word. You can think of the flounder, floundering, if you want to. Use it as a verb for this unit of vocab. Word 9 is graphic. So graphic can be an adjective, it can be a noun. They don't list it as a noun in your book, but it can absolutely be one. Like I might post a graphic that explains how to do poetry or something, like a poster. That's a graphic, okay? I might give you a link to a thing that's like all these poetry terms and they're set up and it's got like little pictures and things. That would be a graphic. You talk about graphics as in like video games and animated videos and things like that, the graphics of it and how realistic they might be. Again, that's using it as a noun, which your book doesn't do, but I'm fine with that if you want to use it that way for our purposes. They're using it as an adjective. So when we say something is graphic, it can mean a variety of things. Usually it means it's kind of lifelike, it's vivid, it's something that you can look at and it's very visual. Graphic can also mean something that's a little more adult. Okay, so if you'd say that movie was very graphic, it might mean it had scenes of violence or other inappropriate content. Same thing with like video games. If you say it's a graphic video game, we're expecting that to be a video game that maybe your 7-year-old little brother can't play, right? And it can also be something related to art and painting and things like that. Like you might say, I want to be a graphic designer. I know some of you have talked about things like that before. It means you want to do something with visual arts, you know, creating something that people are going to look at for maybe advertisement purposes or something like that. Again, use it as an adjective or a noun. I'm fine either way. Word 10 is gruesome. So something that's gruesome is something that's terrible. It's awful to look at, usually related to something violent. So you might say the murder scene was gruesome, or the scene of the car accident where the car was accelerating down the highway was gruesome for all the innocent bystanders who were observing. Just use 3 in one sentence, so congratulations. Something that's horrible, it's something you can't stand to look at. You might use this figuratively, kind of jokingly. You might say, my attempt to cook dinner last night was gruesome. Maybe you ended up with some gray mess that didn't look like food and nobody could eat it. It would be gruesome. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something violent. You could use it to describe someone's appearance. Like if someone's dressed up for Halloween and their costume's really creepy and scary, you might say they had a gruesome looking costume. Again, it's another pretty common word that you've probably seen before. Use it as an adjective. I don't think there are many of those, if any, that you should have trouble with. Maybe canvas. Might want to put a little star next to that one. Again, I've uploaded the vocab pages. I'll probably do the next 10 words in a video for you tomorrow. So be looking out for that. We'll do synonyms and antonyms tomorrow. We're just doing vocab this week. We'll probably start doing a vocab unit per week, and next week we're going to add the outsiders into that, but don't worry, I'll spread it out to where you don't have, 2 or 3 hours of work per day. I'm going to try to keep it with 30 minutes of assignments and 15 minutes at most of video. So don't worry too much about that. Just make sure you do choosing the right word today online. Let me know if there are any issues, if you have any questions about any of these words or anything else. See you guys.